And welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. How are you this evening? I'm Mary Walter. Thank you for joining me. So happy that you are here. We have a really good show for you. I apologize for looking like a homeless person, but it is freezing here. It's 52 degrees out right now. It's going down into the low 40s. The heat's not on. And so I'm all bundled up. I have on two sweatshirts. I'm so cold. I had to break out the winter slippers. I all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? So yeah, fall has arrived at the Jersey Shore. It is freezing. It's going down, like I said, into the 40s tonight. So I had to get an extra blanket for the bed. I'm so cold. But other than that, so again, apologies. Welcome to the show. I want to thank some of our new subscribers. I want to thank Tina and Jill and Christopher and Rebecca. Shelly, thank you so much. We really appreciate you subscribing. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the channel. And if you watch any of the past podcasts or even this one, please like the videos. Really super important. Same thing on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like the audios, the podcasts. I guess it's just the audio of the podcast. Yeah, please like that. So tonight, when I'm done here, we're probably not going to be going as long as we usually go, just because at 9 o'clock tonight Eastern time, so in about an hour and a half, I will be jumping in the seat for Stacey Washington over on Sirius Patriot Channel 125, and I will be with you from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah, then tomorrow I relax. So let me introduce my guest to you. Oh, tonight, by the way, on Stacey's show, just so you know, tonight, please follow me over there. Hans von Spakovsky will be joining us. Jim Robb will be joining us from Numbers USA. And Keith Hansen is a law enforcement expert with a technology company. So we're going to talk about Mark Milley and some of the stuff he said about Trump and inciting violence, that kind of stuff. So they will be my guests tonight. You can follow me on X at Mary Walter Radio. Same thing on YouTube, same thing on Getter, same thing on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I'm also on Truth Social, same thing, Mary Walter Radio. I'm not on Instagram. Everybody's telling me, gotta get on Instagram. I need people, so I can't do that. All right. So oh, I just dropped my phone. Hold on. I threw it across the room. Hang on, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hold on. Threw it across the room. Oh my goodness. Like I said, I'm having a really rough October. I really am. I'm having like a really rough October. Can't wait till this thing's over. Speaking of which, next week we will have a podcast. The week after that, I'm having oral surgery, so we won't be having a podcast because I'm having a really rough October. All right, let's get to this guy. I was on his show this morning. Welcome, Mr. Ben Deeter. Thank you for joining me. Ben is the host
Hi,
of
Mary.
he's the host of Wake Up Memphis on KWAM, the mighty 990 out of Memphis. And you know some of his coworkers because we've had them on the show, Todd Starnes, Grace Baker, and Ben does the early shift. And from what I can understand, Ben lives at the radio station.
That is correct. I have a sleeping bag just right across the way. I thought about wearing it because it would be probably more accurate to what being in radio is like, Mary, of which you know a lot. I'm jealous of your studio, though. I mean, the casualness of this interview, the fact that you can drop your phone and get up and grab it, this is prime. And you, as I understand, do radio from where you're sitting. TV, or is it separate studios?
This is TV, which this is
Okay.
going to change because this room is going to be totally renovated. The walls are coming down because it's plaster and they're all cracking and stuff. And I don't know if they could be repaired or if there's like this wall I think has to go. But so we will be moving this. I don't know where because like the whole first floor is coming out. So I don't know. But upstairs, when I talk to you, that's where I do radio.
Okay.
So that's upstairs in the attic. And if anybody watches me on PHT out of Philadelphia for the morning show, it's my studio is actually in the old servants' bathroom, which is in the attic.
Oh my God. Wait, so
And everybody says it looks like a hostage video because you can see like the angle of the room and it's beadboard and somebody painted white to be in a bathroom and so they say it looks like a hostage video.
I'm curious though. if you're being completely honest with all of your viewers and listeners, is it the same, Mary, doing it where you have your bathroom and your bathrobe 2 feet from you as if you were in an actual studio? Back to your studio days. Did you stiffen up more when you were actually in a studio, or are you able to get into the zone as though you're right there in a studio, but you're just
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
bedroom or attic?
It's the same because I've always worked evenings or mornings.
Okay.
So I've always worked like 7 to 11 or that shift, or I'm working, hello, it's 4 a.m. and I'm in the studio shift. So for both of those shifts, if
Gotcha.
anyone ever said a word to me about my hair or my baseball cap or my lack of makeup, I was just going to punch him in the throat. So I would just come in looking like this sometimes, like I do right now, because like I said,
Right.
heat's not on. I'm freezing. So anyway, all right. So back to all that. Let's get to some of the comments. Let's see who's here. Bill is here. Hello, Bill. Now Tax USA. That's a good person to have on your show. These guys
Hmm.
have a really great tax idea. So you might want to have them on. Time to fight, fight, fight for Trump. Let's do this. Hermit Sal is here, set for another fine program. Bill says, go Trump or the country is done. Scott is here. Sounds like an interesting show again. We shall see. Watching Your Back says hello. Squeaky. Squeaky's the one who gave me that music. It's Mozart Goes Polka. He can put it together. So thank you to him. He's fun. Hermit Sal, you always look great. Oh, thank you. Now Tax USA says we have snow on the mountaintop. I would assume you're out west somewhere because I know in Big Sky they have snow. This one's for you, Ben, from Joanne.
Joanne, I think, must be from our Memphis audience. So shout out to Joanne. Oh, I love
Yep.
it. Wait, so Mary, can people just comment and it comes right up on the simulcast? This is fascinating.
It comes up on the side, and then I add it. And so, like, for instance, on Getter does not transfer over, only YouTube does. But over
Mhm.
on Getter, Rico 2194 says hello. So I have to read those won't come up on the screen.
Gotcha.
Here's another one for you from Robert M. Good evening to Ben Deeter, as Ben and I follow each other on X. Do you know who that is?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure if I follow him, he's a conservative and I don't follow all Republicans. Like I will follow people that are lefties, but if they're nasty lefties, I won't follow them. So the fact
Right.
that I follow this guy, even if he's a Democrat, I tolerate it, right? Because I'm quick on the unfollow button. I'm very trigger happy.
It's funny. I don't care if you don't annoy me. You know what I do in the beginning of the month. People who I see who are commenting in the beginning of the month, who I notice comment a lot on my stuff, I start to friend them. And then after like 2 days, I get bored of it, and then I just do it again next month. It's very
No,
unscientific.
do you know what Mary does? Actually, if there's a troll, she puts them on blast. I love seeing when
I do.
you do. And if someone blocks you, then you just screenshot and go, this is a coward. This is their username. That's how you fight fire with fire.
You know what's sad though? Somebody blocked me recently, and I only realized they blocked me because I couldn't says this post is unavailable to you. You can see why, and I'm like, oh, because I've been blocked. And it was something that I responded to somewhere, and I don't know who it was, so I can't do it because I wasn't quick enough to figure out who it was, so I missed it.
Hmm.
Hermit says he was in Nashville last month, enjoyed it, but Nashville and Memphis are kind of far apart, which I never realized. I never knew
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They're about 3 hours apart. We're on the western side of the state. Nashville is middle Tennessee.
Yeah. Gregory says Stacy Washington, who I am filling in for this evening, was on The Bottom Line. I had never seen her before. Well, if that's why, I wonder if that's her excuse for not working tonight because she had an earlier TV hit. I can't use that excuse. That's okay. I'm getting paid, so that's all right. Tax says, I bet it was Tax. I bet it was beautiful. Oh, because of the snow in the mountains. Porchview Farm. All these are all regulars, which is great to see. Porchview Farm says, I love Ben's shirt, Holland orange. Hup hup.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Robert says, this is Robert M from Indianapolis.
Wow. Indy. It's a good
Watching Your
city.
Back says, I call being blocked a badge of honor. Yeah, every time I post and somebody's unfriended me and the dopey reason why, Hermit Sal always chimes in with, it's a badge of honor, Mary.
Hmm.
Chris Christie said, no one is quicker than Kat Timpf on the unbutton follow, so Ben is probably fine.
I honestly, it's crazy, Mary, because the fact that you don't use Instagram, it's got to be generational because I don't use Twitter. I mean, I am awful at Twitter. I'm great at Instagram. And the
Yeah.
fact you've made it this long without Instagram, you're kind of the odd man out.
You know what though? First of all, I'm not a follower. It took me a really, really long time to get into Twitter because I'm not a follower. Like if everybody's doing Twitter, I'm that person's like, I'm not doing that.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's generational because my friends, like my high school friends, they're all in it. So I'm like, you're not on Instagram. I'm like, I have so much work. I cannot add another social media platform that I have to sit on and go through comments and this and that and everything. It's a job, and I don't have that kind of time. See, you've chosen too. You just chose Instagram. I'm already on Twitter. I'm already entrenched on Twitter. I've got, lots of followers on Twitter. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not I don't have time.
Yeah, makes sense.
When I win the lottery and that's all I have to do, great. But
Hmm.
until someone wants to volunteer to be my people, I don't have time to do it. So
You know how, like, when you make it, you're big enough, you get someone to take over your socials? It must be nice. Like, the people that just follow you around, they get the camera shot of what you're wearing, they tag your brands.
my
Yeah.
champion sweatshirt with
Hmm.
yet another sweatshirt underneath.
How cool. You really are bracing up for like
Freezing.
subarctic temperatures.
It's like 62 degrees in the house.
Is
It
it just
is.
because you're in the TV room, or is the whole house that
No.
cold? Okay.
The house was built in 1881. There's not an ounce of insulation in this thing. It's freezing. It's 53 out right now. It's going down to 41 tonight.
Holy
So
moly.
yeah, it's cold. All right, so let's go. Let's enough about all of this stuff. Oh, Joanne says, I'm a new follower. I definitely need to check out Mary's skills for the trolls. Thank you. I try. Robert says to the both of you, Logansport, Indiana is about 70 miles northwest of Indy. It's a rapidly developing drama episode of mega illegal alien invasions, i.e., Springfield, Ohio.
Oh,
So
wow.
there you go.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. So let's not bore everybody with all this stuff. Let's talk inside baseball instead. So, all right. So you host mornings on KWAM, which is Todd Starnes' radio show, and I fill in for Todd all the time. And Todd has been on this show. And Grace Baker, Todd's producer, right hand woman, the woman who is, the force behind the operation, right? So Todd
Hmm.
has put you on mornings on KWAM. People can listen to it. Just look for KWAM on TuneIn. You can find it online. You can listen online as well. And now you air just in Memphis, right? You're not syndicated. You're
Correct.
just in Memphis. Okay,
Correct.
Todd's show is syndicated. All right. So, how did you get this gig? Like, is this your first? How did you get into radio?
I I ran dead smack into Todd Starnes. That's what happened. And I had
Wait, with
no
a
dream.
car? With a car
with
or
my physical body. I'll get to this story. So I'm studying in Ohio, right outside of Dayton. I wanted to be a TV reporter. I wanted to be an MMJ. I was going to hit the ground running. My internships were Fox affiliate, ABC affiliate, and I thought I was going to be straight down the middle news guy, like David
right?
Muir before the debate. Because I always thought David Muir was like the straight news guy, and he was always my icon. Like he was the model, the standard that I was like, I'm going to be that guy.
Sure.
So I do a couple internships. I go with my school to Washington, D.C. Todd is headlining for then Vice President Mike Pence. My fellow peers in the class all ran to meet Mike Pence. And when they told me that Todd was from Fox, I was like, I want to talk to that guy because, Mary, everybody's trying to get to network. I'm this young guy who thinks it's going to happen overnight. So I'm like, beelining it over to Todd. And I walk up to Todd and I say, hi, my name's Ben Deeter, and I'm going to take your job one day. And he looked a little stunned. It was the audacity, right? Looking back on it, we had a really good conversation. he gave me some good journalism tips. He was like, Ben, whatever you take away from journalism school, which I got a poli-sci degree, but I focused in journalism. He's like, just be able to write well. You would be shocked the amount of young people that graduate with
Yeah,
their
it's true.
undergrad and they can't even write a freaking email, Mary, with proper
Right.
grammar and whatnot. So I actually then, the summer before 2020, I was in New York and I DM'd Todd Starnes on Instagram and I said, hey, I hadn't graduated yet, but I was like, can I take you out to coffee? I'm in New York for a day. And he was like, well, I have a Fox and Friends hit, so I can't do coffee, but let me take you inside the building. And you got to think,
Oh,
for
you
this
went
young
in.
kid, I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, there's Ainsley. I'm like fanboying. I'm in frat boy shorts.
What
I
year
look
was
like
this? What year was this?
this would have been 2019, 2019.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I left in 2014. Okay. So it
Okay.
was I was there.
Yeah, I graduated in 2021, right after the pandemic. So,
Okay.
anyways, I thought I was going to go do MMJ work for, I got two calls. One was a station in Alaska, wasn't going to Alaska. The other was in Steubenville, Ohio, which market sizes, as you know, Mary, range from number one, which is like New York City,
Right.
LA. 200 is you don't want to be 200. And Steubenville, Ohio was like 198. And I
It was
got
like
a
201.
You're right. So I got a follow-up message from Todd on Instagram, and he's like, have you ever thought about radio? And truthfully, the answer was no. And he said,
Right.
why don't you send me the stuff you've been working on in college? And at that point, I had a resume reel for my internships. And so I zapped him a link to it on YouTube, and the CEO of the company gave me a call. They pitched the job, and I moved to Tennessee. Now, keep in mind, Mary, I thought I was moving to Gatlinburg, the Great Smoky Mountains, not Memphis. I had never been to Memphis. I just assumed Tennessee was Tennessee. And I got an apartment on Beale Street, which is downtown, the 38103 zip code, most dangerous one in the country, as we're told.
Yeah.
And I showed up, and the rest is history.
See, I love your story. It's very similar to mine. Let's see here. Greg Howe says, poor chap, you must be so disappointed because you chose radio over television. And I was going to say the same thing. I was like, what? You didn't want to make any money, so you went into radio? Chris Christie says, networking 101, way to go, Ben.
That's
Uh,
right.
Scott says, so it is in modern times. It used to be they can't write in cursive. Now they can't even write a computer email. So,
It's bad.
yeah. Okay. So, good for you, first of all, with the networking. I think that's awesome. Very smart. It's the way to go. It's the only way you're going to get a gig. So good for you. And let me ask you, from where, so you've been doing this job then for what, 2 years, 3 years?
Going on 3 years.
Going on 3 years.
But I didn't start as a host. I was like the guy
Okay.
behind the board. I was not a you. I was not a talent, a host. I was just a little guy that was doing a couple newscasts at the top and bottom of the hour. I wasn't hosting.
Okay. So that's what you want. Now, do you at this point kind of like look at where you are in radio, look at television? Do you still want to make the jump back to TV? Because a lot of people, it's very easy to go from radio to television. It's very hard to go from television to radio. It's a very tough
Why
transition
is
from
that?
TV
Is it because
because on
go ahead.
TV you're reading a teleprompter on television, and if you do have a discussion segment like the Five or Gutfeld or something like that, or even with Bill Hemmer and Dana Perino, if they have a guest, it's very quick. It's like one sentence and then they each say like a
Mhm.
sentence to each other. Well, Dana, da da da, yeah, and you're out. When you go on radio, and I've seen these people crash and burn, people who come from TV onto radio, they sit there and they're like, okay, I'm all ready, and they have all their papers and they have everything and they're ready to go, and they say everything they have to say about every topic they have in the first 10 minutes of the show. Now they have 2 hours and 15 minutes 50 minutes left to fill, and they don't know what to do.
Mhm.
It
That's a
where it's
really
going the
no,
other way
you're
is
exact.
easier.
You're exactly right. I remember back in the day when I was memorizing lines for a look live. It wasn't even a real live shot as an intern, thinking, how am I going to memorize this when the anchor tosses to me? Ben's out in the field at Regional One. And now, having done radio, where you have to fill 3 hours, 2 hours every single morning, 365 days a year, you just tell me to go and I won't shut up. Now you have to actually stop me.
Exactly.
It's the gift of gab.
Yes. Watching Your Back wants to know, are you the next Wilcow?
Who is that?
Andrew Wilcow, Sirius XM
I'm
Patriot
I'm
channel.
I'm Googling.
Yeah, don't Google, use DuckDuckGo. I never Google. Robert M says, Ben, I strongly suggest you recently to get out of the area where you're living.
Well, talk to my boss, and you end up where you end up. It's a bad city. I'm not going to spin it any other way, but you know, for me as a green reporter, right? Super green. I'm not skilled. I don't have the tenure of a lot of these radio people. There's not a better city in the United States of America to learn news than one that is the most dangerous city in America. I mean, it is a news mecca every day. There's something else happening.
So do you want to stay on the commentary side, or do you want to go more towards the news side?
It's a great question, and it's one that keeps me up at night because I never sleep and I'm constantly thinking about what I'm doing with my life and what I'm doing in this industry. Because you tell me, Mary, when a news director is looking at my stuff now, there's no question I am going to be tainted politically. I mean, you just Google my name,
Right.
and at this point, having done 2.5 years in commentary, you will associate my name probably for the rest of my life with the Republican Party. Will a news
Well,
director?
hold on.
Okay,
Maybe not. Only people who know that, KWAM in Tennessee would know that off the top of the bat. They would have to look at you to
they
find
would
out. So
have,
it's a safe
yeah.
bet that if you do just straight news reporting, no one has a reason to look any further to see and would be able to accuse you of being an opinion host.
That's a great question. That's a great point. I would have to delete my Twitter account because they'd Google my name and they'd see my ex. And I'm very opinionated. And here's what else is I like my positions. Actually, I'm proud of them because I reason and I'm logical and I get to those positions doing research and actually talking to people, knowing what I know now about the world. And that's why I'm thankful that I started my career in a pretty progressive city like Memphis. I will never unsee progressive policies. In college, I'm not ashamed to say this. I was a moderate at best. At worst, I was side-eyeing Joe Biden because it was 2020 and everybody in cable news and at the internships that I was at, they were talking about the chaos of the Trump years. And as a young college kid that is easily influenced, I thought, yeah, I mean, Joe Biden, this is Scranton Joe, and Trump's been chaos because of the pandemic. And I almost pulled the trigger for Joe Biden. Now I didn't, and I'm thankful for that, but that's where I was in 2020. Fast forward to today, doing news in a progressive city like Memphis, that completely changed my perspective and worldview. So knowing what I know now, could I go back to a newsroom and have a news director saying, you can't say that? Or when you talk about a gender, a surgery where we're chopping off body parts, because let's face it, that's what it is. Could I justify saying gender affirming care just to keep my job? That would be the tough one for me.
Well, and I have news for you. Not everyone's like Todd. Not everyone's going to let you say whatever you want to say on the air either in your show. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
as you get bigger and you go to bigger stations, the restrictions start to come in because you'll be with a bigger corporate. Stop that. A bigger corporate conglomerate that is worried about the license, and it comes from the head who is in a city far away from you, like in LA or Chicago or New York or whatever, and is telling you what you can or can't say on a radio station in Atlanta.
That's
So
a good point. And I will say my dream job is to be the guy in the field. As much as I love the studio and I'm in it right now, I am 10 times happier and I get an adrenaline rush, which is what I seek pretty regularly from being out in the field. I was
Yeah.
at Trump's rally in Butler, for example. That was a blast because I was actually on the
Wow.
ground. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's really cool. I can do that if I get to be with the media because I'm super claustrophobic and crowds like that, it's just not happening because they're breathing my air. Let's see. Now Tax says, Ben, real old advice. The pen is mightier than the sword. We should write like it is legislation for an amendment to the Constitution or a movie screenplay.
Mm.
He also says, your youth has made you a target for all the old farts. Sue's just got here. Robert M. Says here, Will Cow also does a show on the Salem News Channel weekdays. And by the way, lots of Thunder and Lightning show host on the Salem News Channel.
Mm.
Yeah, I know. Will Cow used to do a TV show on the Blaze out of New York because when I was in the city, either doing Fox TV or radio or Sirius Radio. They're literally on 6th Avenue on separate corners, the north and south sides of 48th Street, and one's on the south side, one's on the north side. I would be on Andrew's show on the Blaze with him when he was on that's when his TV show was there. I forgot he had the show on Salem. Robert C says, me and my wife watch you all the time. It was awesome to meet you and get the Trump signs for our yard.
Let's go. It's an honor. I love
There
meeting
you go.
listeners,
Yeah.
don't you, Mary?
Yeah, I don't really do that anymore. I haven't had a radio job where you really went out and met listeners.
Okay.
When I was working locally in New Jersey, we did a lot. Both of my radio jobs in New Jersey, we did a lot. And then when I started working, then I did, fill-in for Fox and this and that. And then I was just a fill-in, so nobody's taking the fill-in to meet anybody. That's not happening. No matter how much you fill in there, they're not taking the fill-in. And then when I was in DC, we did one listener meet and greet a year. That was
Okay.
it. There was one. And people had to stand in line to each team, like each day part was in different parts of the room. We had a big thing ahead of time where we sat on a stage with and we had a guest like Sean Spicer or Sebastian Gorka or Joe Geneva, whoever, and they got to submit questions that we answered. And then after that, we went out and everybody got their picture with us and we did like a little meet and greet. And it was fun. It was really fun. I don't have a problem with that. I know some hosts hate it, but I think management hates it more. It doesn't bother me at all. I've met some really cool people over the years, but when you get into the larger markets, they don't really do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a smaller market thing. When I
Well,
think it's
maybe
kind
I'll
of
stay in
cool.
the small market because I love it. It's the highlight
Cool.
of, yeah, I get lonely in here, to be honest. And sometimes you have to imagine your listeners' faces because you're just in here and you're talking to a mic in a dark room. And so it's always nice to put a name to the face and get
Absolutely.
out there.
Hermit Sal says, where you are sounds as dangerous as New York City. Do you have MS-13, which I call BS-13, and the Trend Aqua gangs in Memphis?
I cannot confirm that, but we have the Blood, the Crips. There's a couple other gangs. Most of the violence in this city is gang related. So
Nice.
yeah.
Joanne says, cat or dog?
Oh, that's a great question. Do you have a cat or dog? You keep on talking to
I
what?
have 3 cats, and one of them was just scratching the rug here because they want to have their dinner. And so they know when I'm done here, I go and feed them. So they're circling. The natives are restless.
So I've been Googling whether I should get a dog. I'm super impulsive and it seems like a great idea until someone encouraged me to get on Reddit and type in dog stories and like what it actually takes to get a dog. Because I'll go to the animal shelter. They're super cute. It's like a buffet. You can be like, I want the one that pees in the corner, not the one that I have to train to pee. So I'm going through selfishly to find this perfect dog. And then I went on Reddit and looked at what they said. And they basically said, if you want just a cool roommate, get a cat. Like someone
Yep.
that's just over there chilling on a couch. If you want a baby that you have to be a wraparound 24/7, get a dog.
Get a dog. 100%. And if you live in a bad area, you don't want to be walking the dog at 11 o'clock at night.
Unless it's like a really scary canine, and that would be my.
Even then, they can't stop bullets with their teeth. So, yeah, I was gonna say, get a cat, get a cat. Cats are really cool if you can treat them like a dog. We treat our cats like dogs. We call them, they come running because they think they're gonna get a treat. They sit on command, so cats are really cool. And you know what, I would suggest you get two that are a bonded pair, because then they'll play with each other and they won't bother you as much. They'll play and that kind of thing. So that would be good. Let's see. A lot of people, a lot of comments here. Porch View Farm says, as a recruiter, there are lots of career moves to be made and opportunities show when you are ready. I agree with that. I think, things happen in every career change that has been made for me, has seemed like, oh my gosh, the end of the world. And then another door opens and then, you go do that and you just wind
Do
up where you.
you, here's my fear, Mary, is I get a couple years into this, like 10, 15 years into it, and I go, wait, I should have done actually back when I was 25 this, and it would have changed the trajectory of my
Of
career. Do you
course.
think about that? Can you think
Of
about
course, it
that?
happens. Everybody does. That's
Yeah.
life. It's called life. That's called life.
So so
Of
then
course.
if you were talking to 25-year-old Mary, but pretend it's Ben, because now I'm asking for advice because you've been in this industry a little bit longer. Do you stay in radio or do you dabble in other things? Like, what's the future of these mediums? Radio, TV, is it all digital?
I think radio dies out. I really do. Radio is killing itself. So if I had it to do all over again, I would not have gone into radio. And my father, the best career advice I ever got was my father telling me to get a government job. He said, get a government job. And he said, you know what? You'll get every holiday off. There's like 17 holidays. You'll get paid vacation, guaranteed. You will get maternity leave and family paid leave and this leave and that leave. If you sit in the seat long enough, you're going to get promoted no matter what. You're never going to down. So you're never going to take a pay cut. You will only get pay advances, and they're never going to fire you. So it's a sweet job, and you'll retire with a great pension and health care. But when you're 23 years old, pay a pension, healthcare, who cares about those things? When you get old, you're like, oh crap, a pension and healthcare would have been sweet. So if I had it to do all over again, I would not have gone into this medium and I would have gotten a government job. So there you go. You want me to be honest? I'll be honest.
All right,
Okay. Robert says we love seeing Todd at the rallies. Here's the thing. If you can realize that there's going to be a ceiling and you're only going to make so much money, and there's always less money in radio, every 10 years there's less money in radio. And you're okay
that
with
is
that.
I,
That's
I
great.
I think you have to decide what, and I've talked to some college kids. I jumped on a call with kids at UT that were entering this field. I don't know if they were going into print, TV, radio, you name it. And they had a million questions about like pay, etc. And I think you have to know why you're entering this industry to begin with. If you're cool with the grim realities of this industry, which is you're sleeping at the station, be cool with that. You have the crappiest hours. You might be lucky if you get off Christmas, and you're cool if you don't get paid. If that's a non-factor for you, and you love telling stories, you love news, you love commentary, you have to know what you want. And if that's not an issue, go into it.
That's awesome. But
But
what you want at 23 is different than what you want at 43.
yeah,
I've never slept at a radio station because there's no way on God's green earth that's ever happening. Because listen, I've had some great coworkers in radio, but it is one of the motliest crews of people you will ever see. It's the island of misfit toys. It's every radio station has a cot that has never been cleaned, then people have drooled on and God knows what. So no, same thing with the couch. I never sat or touched the couch in the radio station either. I went in, I did my job, I left, I went home. I would walk through a blizzard to get the hell out of there and get home. I don't care. I'm not sleeping in a radio station. So I've never done that. It's
Todd's radio station is different though. I'll plug Todd. His looks like the Peabody Hotel.
okay. Well, Todd's a little high maintenance. Speaking of which, Robert C says, we love seeing Todd at the rallies. Robert M says, talk radio show hosts in certain markets must coddle and pacify ad buyers. That's very true. That is very true. Ben, Mary will never tell anyone, but she's the #1 awesome fill-in host in America, destined to be the other View most famous conservative new talk show host. No, hell no. Hell no. I'm just riding this until I can retire. That's where I am at this point in the game. But seriously, like passion is
here's
great and
here's
wanting
what
to
I'll
do
say
something's
though.
great, doesn't pay the bills.
I hear that, but and you have wisdom on your side. I have this innocence on my side, which is I'm going into the world of broadcast news. Oh,
Yeah.
the golden years of TV and radio, I do think you're right. Like we need to look into the future. Things are changing so quick. That being said, to some of the comments that we've read on this simulcast, the ability to speak, as we know, seeing that our vice president can't even speak coherently, much less Gen Zers like my age, people in their 20s. If I get out the other side, and it's not for me in a couple years, I am going to be able to out talk and outright every single one of my peers because of this industry. And that's how I look at it every single day when it's tough. It's not super glamorous. I'm like, every day I get to wake up and be the best communicator in my circle in my 20s. So say 30, I decide to pit it. I'm going to be a really great whatever. I could be a spokesperson for a police department.
Government job. See? Listen to my father. Thank you, Navtex. Robert said, I recently made some razor sharp comments on an indie area radio talk show, and the host tracked me down on Facebook and cussed at me. True story. Wow.
Well, Bobby's spilling the tea. Wow, that's insane.
Suze says, you give me hope. My daughters do as well. Young people seem to be gravitating to a more conservative view. That's my experience. I agree. I think your generation is starting to swing the other way. Pendulum always winds up swinging back. It went too far to the left, and I think now it's starting to swing back to the middle. Am I wrong?
I so agree with you. The idea of canceling someone is so 2019. It's disgusting. It gives us all the ick. We're like, what? You're canceling someone? That was so a couple years ago. We don't cancel
Yeah.
people. You can get away with hell and you're going to be fine.
Well, I hope so. I hope so.
No, I do.
She also says cats are fun, by the way. Joanne says, same with me, Suze. My oldest daughter, 24, is seeing firsthand how expensive everything is and how hard it is to get ahead being so young. It's really sad. Hermit Sal says, why do you say that radio is killing itself off? Well, it's simple. Everything's syndicated because it's cheaper. And radio corporations are doing it of themselves. They cannibalized all the mom and pop radio with stations. They made it into one big conglomerate. So there's what Cumulus, iHeart, and Odyssey, right? And Odyssey was just sold off to George Soros, right? So you've got in everybody because they're all fighting for the dollars of the local merchants. So as things contract, local merchants don't have as much money. They're not putting a lot of money into anything, right? So it's a dying industry. Also, younger people, they're starting to come back to listening to radio, but they grew up where everybody has their own television, they hear what they want to hear. There's no sitting like we grew up sitting in the car and you listen to what your father or mother, whoever was driving, the driver controlled the radio and that was that. And you listen to it. So I knew songs from the 50s and the 60s. Like I knew those old songs because I knew what my grandfather used to listen to, when I was a kid, because we had to. Now you don't. And so I think radio is just a dying medium in that sense. What do you think?
If they don't advance with the changes, I think the writing is on the wall. Same with television. That's why I'm not jumping at the. I mean, I just did Newsmax tonight, right before I humped on this, and
Oh,
the
nice.
the forum is just it kills me. I'm like, we're so used to long forum. We're used to ad free, commercial free. Everything is one, two, three. You download your favorite podcast and you skip the ads if there are ads. And I'm sitting through a commercial break. You get 3 minutes to get a money bite, a sound bite, and you're moving on to. And I'm like, this is actually not how the future of news is going to be. And I think if they advance, I think there's a couple networks that might be fine, but in the scheme of things, what, 15 years? Do you really think these people are still going to be watching the evening newscasts? Like,
Right.
maybe. I think with a population or a generation that slowly dies off, I can tell you right now, millennials, Gen Zers, they are not watching or listening to me on the air, as much as that kills me to say. they'll
Right.
listen to the podcast because we download the podcast and they can listen to it from work. So maybe
Right.
that's how you
Right.
save it.
Yeah, maybe. Now Tax says advice. It is purpose. It is your purpose in life that should you direct that should direct your it is purpose in life that should direct your career. Follow your passion and you will never work another day in your life. 25, you're doing it. Keep it up. Good for you.
Hmm. Thank you.
Suze says, Joanne, my 24-year-old is moving out this weekend. So proud of who she is and what is to come. That's great, launching at 24. Podcasting seems to be the way to go for anyone with a modicum amount of notoriety presently. Problem is, everybody's got a podcast. I had this conversation with Dan Bongino. I had a conversation with him about this and talked about moving over to Rumble. And he goes, look, here's the deal. You're never going to make money at a podcast. He goes, I made money because I was one of the first ones. That's why I did it. He goes, but unless there are so many celebrities who podcast now that it's tough. Todd says high maintenance. Yes, Todd, you are high maintenance. I would like that noted. Here's a Todd Starn story for you. So we went down to Washington D.C. about 6 weeks ago, and we were down there for the Barrett News Media Summit. And so I said, "Oh, Todd, we should get together. Let's have dinner. Let's have coffee, whatever." I said, "Are you staying at the hotel that has the discount where everyone is staying?" And he goes, "Oh no, I'm not staying there." "Oh, it's not sold out. Why aren't you staying there?" He goes, "I'm staying at the Ritz." I was like, "Oh my, okay." So don't ever tell me you are not high maintenance, Mr. Starnes. Boom.
I contractually cannot say anything. I'm zipping my lip and tossing it.
Robert C says, walk around with a bull mastiff in downtown, you'll be okay. Uh, Joanne agrees. Podcasting is the way to go. Mainstream is done. Haven't watched in years. I do think, though, and one thing Todd and I learned at the Barrett News Media Summit is there's this Edison polling group, and they do all statistics and stuff. And there is now, it's the listenership to radio has been going down, 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 right? Now it is starting now with, I guess, Gen Z is the youngest, starting to come back up. It's starting to come back. Just like my nieces and nephews who are Gen Z want my albums now. They all want my albums because they have record players. I'm like, you are not getting my albums. No. I will them to you, but they're mine. But now they're into all of that. Do you have any 8 tracks? I'm like, 8 tracks? No, I don't have any 8 tracks. Like they want all that stuff now. So I think that it can come back. I do think that, but the programming, to your point, has to change. Todd says Ben Deeter has the #1 morning show in Memphis on a station that did not even exist 4 years ago. Absolutely right. Local hosts, local ownership, compelling content. That's the winning formula. And Todd's right. You know what that is? That's bringing back those mom and pop small radio stations that we were talking about that were cannibalized by all those big corporations. And those big corporations just said, oh, well, if Hannity's on this station, then the crosstown station has to have Rush Limbaugh. Nobody's doing local. So
It's a great
Todd's
point.
right. Todd's doing a throwback, and it works.
Well, and I also think that finding your niche, because you're right, everything is oversaturated. Podcasts, everybody's got a show now, and you're competing with different mediums. But find your lane and stay in your lane and beat that every single day. Same thing with social media. I'm on TikTok. TikTok blew up for me because I did the same thing every single day. I know,
So
but
are the
I like.
Chinese. Ugh, what's wrong with you?
So is my car. So is most of the clothes that's in my closet.
Yeah.
But if they're going to harvest my data, I really think we have, for example, right across the state line in Arkansas, they bought up most of the land until the governor said, okay, the CCP, you can quit buying our land and property. So if they're not surveilling our farmlands and half of the country, I don't know that my mobile device is a problem. Who knows? I could be wrong. But it's been a really convenient medium for me because I do the same thing every single day. And I think that translates to radio. Know what your audience expects from you and serve that every day, and you'll keep your audience.
Like I said, I think Todd has mastered the throwback to what radio was when it was super successful before corporates bought it all up. Let's say, okay, Gregory says, I've noticed that in the past 20 years in Richmond, the TV and radio folks disappear, but later are reborn as spokespersons for like the bus company, the sheriff's department, AAA. Joanne says, Ben and Ty got me into talk radio. They're my number one go-to always. I love that. Let's see. Sue says, my daughter is wild for vinyl. She swiped all of our old stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. We did a Yankee Santa, where you pick a number and you could either get a new gift or you could steal someone else's gift.
Hmm.
And the young 20 somethings, early 30 somethings went to an old record store in Asbury Park that's super hot right now and got a Doors album and another album, and that was the gift that they put in, and everybody fought on about it.
What's
And
old is new.
Yep, Hermit Sal says he's going to follow you. He's going to try to listen to your program. You're on, let's see, you're 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern time, right?
So it would be 8 to 10 your time. So Eastern, 8 to 10.
You're only on for 2
Correct?
hours. You're
Yeah.
only on 2 hours.
It was a 6-hour show, but we changed it to a 2-hour show.
6
Yeah.
hours, dear Lord. Well, there's a happy medium between 6 and 2, for Lord's
Wait,
sake.
did you say 6?
Great.
No. It started at 6 o'clock in the morning. No. It was a 3-hour
okay.
show that started at 6. Now it starts at 7 Central, 8 your time.
How come it's only 2 hours? Why doesn't it start at 6?
I think that morning drive has changed a lot, and when people are even getting into work. I don't know if that's the case in the cities that you were at. I think traditionally maybe people were showing up 6 o'clock in the morning. We saw a massive spike in our audience at 7 o'clock. It was like boom. And so that's what we did. I'm content with it because it means a little bit more sleep every morning. I'm not going to be complaining about it.
Yeah, no. I mean, DC, our show started at 5 a.m. In New Jersey, we started at 5:30 because everybody's commuting into New York or commuting into the district. But it's true, the younger we get, the lazier they are and the later they want to come in. So there's that. Let's see. I took that little dig and you didn't respond. Sue says she loves PHT. Yes, talk radio rocks. A friend of my dad started a radio station in Bainbridge, Ohio, specializing in American standards. I listen online since I moved. Todd is right. You cannot beat local radio. All right. So let me ask you a question. Why are you at the radio station right now instead of doing this from your apartment?
That's a great question. I think better at the radio station. Great question.
It's a conversation. What's to think about?
I show prep at the radio station, even though I could do it from my bed. And I even have a MacBook and I could do it from, I don't know. I do not have boundaries between personal and professional. They all kind of just blend together.
No. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. I'll tell you that right now. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. You need a home life and a work life. Because clearly you're single. Because when you're not, and you will never be unsingle if you live at work.
That's a great point. I have run into that problem repeatedly because people will be like, are you dating? Are you married? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm married to my job. And
that's wrong. You're 25 years old.
It's a terrible spouse.
You know what? You're going to regret it in 10 years. I'm telling you right now, when you're 35 and still single and your friends are all having babies and everything else. And you're like, well, I did sleep at the radio station and spend most of my life there. So maybe that's why.
I do date. I do frequently date. I just don't lock down anything seriously, which is probably a problem.
Well, it's up to you. But
my parents think it is, but I'm pretty content.
All right. Nothing but compliments to Mary and you, Ben, that can talk and keep us interested for hours. I start with Mike Slater, then Webb, that's Sirius, and then Wilcow, Sirius, and then he stops at Hannity. Porch View Farm, I started at 5 a.m. to listen when Mary was on WMAL. Love the morning show. Thank you. It was fun to do, but I never understood why it started at 5 a.m. I'll be honest with you. My father has a whole bunch of vinyl, and me and my wife love listening to that. Joanne, Ben wanted KWAM coffee tonight.
Oh yeah, I'll chug coffee at 12 o'clock at night. It's insane.
Yeah, you look like you might be a little on the hyper side. Hermit Sal says, Ben, listen to Mary's advice.
I am. This has been super. I'm gonna archive this, and Mary, I'm gonna play it back like a TED Talk.
Listen, your 20s, the 20s are when you're supposed to have fun. The 20s are when you're supposed to do a lot of dumb stuff. The 20s are when you're supposed to look back and look at some of those memories and go, what the hell was I thinking? But man, did I have a good time. It can't be, oh, yeah, I lived at the radio station in my apartment. That's later in life, not now. So go
Mm.
have a good time. All right. Oh, okay. One of the cats just came charging in here with one of my highlighters and threw it across the floor. Okay, so the reason why why don't you ever go home is what?
Because I do like my apartment. I have a really nice apartment, Mary. It's right on the Mississippi River. I look out, there's the Mississippi. I'm an excessive runner. So if I'm not at the radio station, I am running. I run 10 miles every single day. So I do have a life and it's running and then
Okay.
I do work. Yeah.
And
I
running's
love car.
great, but another advice from an old person, make sure you have, what is this? What the hell is this? I don't know what this is. Um, one of the cats brought this in, so this is interesting. Okay. Um, Make sure you have really good health insurance for the hip and knee replacements when you're in your 40s and 50s. Just saying. My husband's partner is a triathlete. He
Mhm.
had he had his one hip replaced. The first one was replaced in his late 40s, and then the next one was replaced in his 50s because he ran every single day. So just
I'll thrive with artificial intelligence needs because in 20 years, if you saw Elon Musk over the weekend roll out those new robots, I think probably in a couple years, we'll just get robot legs and Elon will
there you
create them.
go. Well, they'll still have to be implanted though, and you'll still have surgery, just like an artificial hip, just like a new hip. Greg goes, poor Ben. This is like an intervention. So you have to understand. I know Ben's coworkers, so all right, now Tax USA says, or 20s is when you take over the world with awesome ideas to save the world because it will take another 30 years to get there. Ah, so there you go. There you go. Okay, tell us about your diet. I know you're a big runner,
Oh,
but
it's it's
you're a big health nut, right?
it's really disgusting, Mary. I don't know if people want to hear about this. I've been
I
told I
do.
can't. I've been told I've been. That's the one thing I can talk about all of the trigger words for the mainstream media. What we can't talk about. My boss platforms me to talk about those. What I can't talk about is my diet because people are waking up. They've got Cheerios or whatever people eat, oatmeal, and I'm on air because I did this talking about eating raw liver every single morning. I wash it down with bone broth, and then I drink colostrum, which is pre-breast milk of cows, and that's all in my. It's like Fear Factor. Do you remember the TV show Fear
Yes.
Factor?
What is wrong with you?
But that's like my morning breakfast, and I do it every
Why?
single because I am an excessive person. Like if so in college, I was a vegan, would not not a vegetarian, a vegan because I just watched a couple documentaries and I was like, yeah, that's scary, cowspiracy, and we were all brainwashed into like eating a cow will kill you. And then I realized that that was propaganda and probably not true. So then I learned about a carnivore diet. Maybe you guys have heard of it. You basically only eat red meat, and it pushes back the orthodox terminology or the mentality that red meat will just spike your cholesterol. And maybe it does a little bit, but it's not going to kill you. It's a whole trend, what people would call a fad diet. So it's the carnivore diet. I just do it, if you were grading it, an A plus because I'll do anything to the nth degree.
Okay, so let me just say right here, you're going to have to tone that down if you ever want to get married. That's all I'm going to say is you need to rein in that I do everything to the nth degree thing. That's going to have to come down a notch or two. Because no one, I can't, can you imagine you're dating someone, the first time you stay at her apartment, you're like, oh no, I don't want eggs, honey. I'm just going to eat raw liver here. But like, oh my God, that's it. She's going to be talking about that with her girlfriends at lunch. That's the last you're ever going to see of her.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm pushing back because I do run, but I'm not like your typical runner. I like qualify for Boston's runs. So like I'm the fastest runner in the city of Memphis, bar none. Like I win every race that I and it means like when I say that half my life is training every single day. So one of the components, as you know, is your diet. So it's extreme and maybe it won't date well, but right now I'm more into athleticism than maybe dating. And so I don't know. I'm a fan of my diet.
You must be because Even Sue's is here's Sue's response. Ew.
So there's a method to eating raw liver. Do you want to hear it? Because
No, because I can't eat cooked liver without gagging, let alone raw liver. There is no way on God. Maybe if
you
it was
could.
apocalyptic and it's the only thing and I don't even have a lighter to heat it up, maybe then that would happen. But there is absolutely, you could put $1 million in front of me and be like, oh, well, I'm going to be $1 million poorer because there's no way I am eating raw liver. My cats, I don't think will eat it.
So you dice it up, you chop it up. It looks like a scene from Criminal Minds. I will confess, it's pretty nasty. And then you dice it into like small cubes of ice, and you toss it in your freezer. And when you're ready to eat it, I eat it every morning before work. And you pull it out for 2 seconds. It thaws a little bit, so it's like mid frozen ice and thawed meat. You can swallow it. You still taste the metallic taste. Like for the listeners out there, the viewers, you probably Mary, grab a trash can. You probably know if you've tried maybe liver and onions. Do you guys try those? That was like a big thing.
I can't stand the
Oh,
smell of liver cooking.
it's extremely metallic. You would be better eating a metal rod. But they say it's a superfood, and who doesn't want to be super? So I was sold.
So is joke on you down the road when they're like, yeah, it wasn't so super, and you were eating, you know, raw liver slushies.
Yeah, exactly. And to all of my peers, we were told that vapes were super healthy for us because they weren't smoking, and we all started vaping in college and high school. And
See?
they came out with a study saying actually you all have popcorn lung. Probably, Mary. Probably I'll jump on this forum with you in 10 years and I'll be like, man, should have listened to the queen.
Wow. Damn. Sue says carnivores eat eggs. No,
Yeah, they eat a lot of eggs as well.
but raw, right? You don't cook it.
I don't eat raw eggs. I always heard that would give you salmonella. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm sure you can't get any kind of disease from eating raw liver, because like nothing could go horribly awry with that.
uh, yeah. See, Mary, this is why
Yeah.
you would be a great boy. I don't know. I feel like if I hung out with you a little bit, I would straighten up. I would not be at the station. I would probably be prim and
You have a life.
proper, and I'd have some moderation. Yeah,
Yeah.
moderation is the key to life. That's what they say.
Yeah, because you are all gas and no brake. I would have if I was at the radio station, I have a Valium blow dart, and every now and then I just whack you with it to take you down a notch. It's just like, all right, now Chuck says that's definitely a young man's diet. So much for Dr. Gundry and polyphenols. I have Ted's Nugent's tweeter on X. Herman says carnivores are what help make America great. Yeah, I'm a carnivore. I eat meat, but not like that. That's disgusting. I'm not. I don't eat like a wolf. All right. I don't eat like an animal out there. I eat like a human being. Chris Christie says Ben's probably got the most well-rounded carnivore diet I've heard. Organ meat, bone broth, etc. Not too
Thank you,
bad.
Chris.
There you go.
No, Mary, genuinely, like you should try bone broth. Like every one of your viewers that maybe isn't on board with eating bovine organs, right? At least I'm not eating testicles or anything like that because they eat that, and I'm not. No, there's a line even
So
for me.
that's where you draw the line. That's the
I'm not.
line.
I'm not eating cow testicles. So, but if you want to dabble, yeah, I'm sure
There you go.
there's something for everybody. But have bone broth. It's great. It has a great natural collagen. Collagen is great for your hair, great for your skin if you want your skin to be tight without having to go under a needle. And that's all in bone broth. You can get that right at your local grocery store. And a ton of protein.
What does it taste like?
It honestly, if you get Kettle and Fire, it's a little costly. You get a carton of it. It's 42 grams of protein, 4 servings in there. So you could maybe have half of it a day. And it tastes like a diluted version of chicken noodle soup. A little diluted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
And you just heat it up and drink it?
In the morning. Yes, and if you
Yeah,
know
no,
like
not in the morning. No, not in the morning. Not happening in the morning. Absolutely not. Nikki, you
oh
drink it. I have to have coffee. I got the coffee. I don't drink. I do intermittent fasting, so I don't get my coffee until noon. But I got my
nice.
coffee, and if I'm lucky, and we happen to have like a bag of Areas, I dip an Oreo in that, and that's my treat. So yeah, no raw liver nor bone broth. Moderation. Okay. Scott says I would be concerned about what the animal was eating that the liver came from.
Well, I think it's really important to his point where you get your beef. I will not order beef at a grocery store ever. Like I don't know where they're getting it. I don't know where they're getting their eggs, where they're harvesting their cattle or their chickens.
Right.
So I built a really great rapport with a couple of local farmers, and every Saturday I walk over to my farmers market. I know them personally now, so I have their phone number, and if I need a pickup of meat, they just deliver it to me. So I think that's really important to his point. You want to know where your meat is coming, especially if you're eating their liver or their kidney or pancreas.
Okay, Clarice. If you ever get in a car accident on the way home from the butcher, they're going to think you're a serial killer and you're going to wind up behind bars, and we're going to have to play this video in order to get you out. Gregory says, as a kid, we used to eat boiled tongue. When my mom served the liver, my sister, who is 5 years older than me, cried. When my mother would serve liver, I hated it so much. I couldn't stand the smell of it. And she would make me sit at the table for hours to eat the damn liver, and I couldn't eat it. I never understood, why do you force me to eat? I don't like it. Why are you doing
Yeah.
this to me?
You're
I
like,
can't eat.
why are we bypassing the sirloin? Just give
Yeah,
me the shoulder,
well,
the back, the
my
rib.
my mother loved liver and onions, so therefore we all had to eat it. Sue says you do have great hair, which you do. Yes, you do. Hermit Sal says Vietnamese diet has bone marrow with a bowl of noodles. Bone broth is fantastic. I make ours and can it.
Oh wow, they're
Todd
fantastic.
Todd says barbecue bologna, a southern delicacy. What the hell is that?
Do you know what it is? I was a vegan and Todd brought me to Memphis for my radio career, and I still wasn't eating meat, and we went out to eat. He was my boss. I'm trying to impress him, make him not regret hiring me. And Todd orders like this massive charcuterie board of barbecue stuff. I like it with sausages and jerky, and he sat it right down in front of me. And again, this is the kid that didn't touch meat for 4 years in college. And breathed and I dug in, and it was heavenly. I felt like it was like a second birth, my birth into the kingdom of me. I was like, this is freaking
You.
awesome. And I've never
Good for
turned back.
you.
I've never turned back.
Good. You know what? Good for you. But what is barbecued bologna?
I would have to try it. Like we all know what bologna is, but do you fry it and then put a barbecue sauce on it? I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know. I don't know what that is. Todd, I don't know what that is. Hold on. He may have texted me. Somebody texted me. Hang on. See if that's him. No, he just laughed at something I texted him. Um, no, you know what though? I give you mad respect for that. As a young kid, you said, "Oh, I'm eating with my boss, and here I am, a vegan, and here he puts this big thing of barbecue in front of me." I give you a lot of respect for that. I think that that was a
Also,
really mature decision to make. On the other hand, you just could have said, "Oh, I'm sorry." You know, when you found out you were going to a barbecue restaurant, go, "I'm really sorry, but I'm a vegan. I don't eat meat." That was the other
and
option, but
Todd would have
it was
fired
past
me.
that. No, he
Todd
wouldn't.
Todd would have fired me.
No, he doesn't. He wouldn't have. But good for you. I give you a lot of credit. I applaud that a lot. Hermit Sal says, I get my meat and other food from farms on Long Island.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Let's see. Todd says you smoke the bologna.
Mm.
We have we have we have Taylor ham, pork roll. So I've never had fried bologna before because we have Taylor ham, which is way
Hmm.
better. Ben, I don't eat meat. Todd, you don't eat meat. Try the bologna. Is that what he said to you? Is that what happened?
Exactly. And it was the best thing ever. I mean, I have never turned back. And yeah, now I'm a big guy.
Uh, oh, my friend Jerry says Gail is a big fan of fried bologna because she's from the South. Fried in barbecue sauce, very thickly sliced. Oh,
Mm.
Jerry, you got to turn around to the pork roll. So, you know what? I just looked at the time. We got to go because I have to go do a radio show. I will be on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125 starting at 9 o'clock in 45 minutes from now. Not even 45 minutes in less than that. 40 minutes from now, I'll be starting there. But I just want to say, Ben, thank you so much. Please tune in to KWAM, the Mighty 990. Catch Ben in the morning from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
Correct.
Okay, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. I like to put everything in Eastern time because people in other time zones are used to subtracting and figuring it out for themselves. Anyway, you can catch him there Monday through Friday. And from what I've learned, he's also on various radio shows throughout the day because he never goes home and he stays at the radio station. You know, you could save rent if you just live there. You could stop paying rent on your apartment and Todd would never know.
There's an attic upstairs, and all they have to do is do the plumbing, and there would be a shower, and then boom, it's easy.
There you go. Exactly. Well, every radio station has a shower, which is another thing I would never go into either. I would never, ever go into that shower. They're like, oh, you could shower. I'm like, oh, hell no. Nope, nope, not happening.
All right, well, Mary, have fun on your show tonight.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your show. I totally appreciate that. Don't forget to please like the podcast. Please subscribe. I will be on Newsmax on Monday, every Monday between 4:30 and 5 o'clock. Anything else you want to plug? How can people find you on the socials?
You can find me at my show. Listen to the show, kwamradio.com. I'm not a big social guy, but just listen to the show and listen to Mary because she comes on the show a lot, and I always
Yes,
enjoy it.
kind of. Well, listen, we have to get you back and we're going to do news. We're going to talk about news stories. I had so much fun talking about you. You are fascinating. And I think you are way ahead than you are age wise. Just, you know what I mean? Like you're ahead in the career department. You're ahead in this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to know what to do. I want to say wise beyond your years, but I know that's a very hackneyed saying. You know, the way you got the job, so impressive, so ballsy, right? Like, and it worked and you knew what you wanted and you went out and got it. And I just think that that is fantastic. And very few people at that age, I know I wouldn't have done something like that. So kudos to you. I think, and you're
Thank
doing a
you.
great job. Your show is doing fantastically in just what 3 years. So you're so
Thank you.
accomplished for someone your age. I cannot wait to see where you go. So that back, I can say like 20 years from now, when I'm in a nursing home, I can go, I knew that young man when he was nothing.
Oh no, I'm gonna put a Comrex in your nursing home, and I'll wheel you over to the Comrex. Don't worry, Mary, you're still gonna be on air, and I think every one of your viewers would champion that until
Oh
your
God.
dying breath, even if that
Yeah.
is at the residential
Yeah.
facilities.
Like I said, I'm really curious to see where you go. So I want to have you back. We'll do news. I promise. All right. Thank you so
Let's
much.
do it. Bye,
Take
Mary.
care. Bye bye.